Hello my gorgeous ones, welcome to Alicia Budget Beauty. My name is Alicia. Here on my channel, I love affordable fashion and beauty, fragrance. I do hauls, tutorials, reviews, all sorts of fun stuff. So if that sounds good to you, please subscribe, stick around, be a friend. All right, you guys. So I did a video that was my top 3 palettes in 8 different categories. That was inspired by my friend Moira Beauty doing that video. And as I was going over all my palettes, I kept saying, these categories just don't even, like, it's not even sufficient enough. Like, I need more categories than this 8. I've got to add categories. And a lot of you had said, like, yes, do a part 2, add the categories. So that is what I'm doing. And I added 10 more categories where I will give you my top 3 palettes in each of those. And even at that, I still had other categories I wanted to include. So I may do a part 3, but for now, if you want to see my top 3 categories in these 10 categories, keep on watching. All right, the categories are cool toned, warm toned, cool and warm toned together in one palette, slash, or I had to combine these two, or like a neutral and colorful in one palette. So that's all just one. I included those like as kind of like a mixed palette category. Neons, tropical, date night, jewel tones, grunge, dark glam slash moody, and then a kind of a non-cohesive random category that's like, it doesn't really fit into any category. So those are my 10 categories. And like I said, even at that, I have at least like 5 others that I thought of. One of those is, I was like, wait, these are all like mermaid palettes. And then I remembered I already did that video. So you guys can go look at that if you want some mermaid inspired looking palettes. Also, I left off ones that are like spooky season palettes because I plan on doing that separately. So some of those could have maybe made this one, but I was like, I'll just wait and throw those in the spooky season palette. So, all right, let's start with cool tone. And you guys, I broke my rule. I have 4 in this one, not on purpose. I really tried to have it at 3, but as I was setting up, I was like, oh shoot, I have 4 here. I'm like, I'll just show you 4. Who cares? There are no rules really. All right, so we have the Soulmane 2 palette by Oden. This is probably my favorite palette of theirs. I have quite a few. I really, really love Giant Wolves, but I don't feel like that's always as fair to show because you can't get it anymore. I hate that they do that. I'm actually like not too happy with how Oden's has been conducting their business lately. I can't stand their releases that, you know, they tell you last second they're releasing and then it's limited edition and people don't have the money for it. I don't like that they don't show diverse swatches on skin tones. However, I love this palette. And yes, this probably could have fit. A lot of these could have fit into multiple categories. I feel like this one could have maybe been the warm and cool because this is very cool and this row is very warm. But for the most part, when I open it, I see a cool tone palette and I love these blue tones in here. It is a palette that I see for all year round. Definitely this is like fall looking and then you have spring in here too, but then like the wintry blues I also see. So I just absolutely love this palette. I do highly recommend that palette, even if I'm mad at Oden's Eye. By the way, you guys, I don't know which video is going first. This eye look is from Unique Beauty, which is like my new favorite brand. It's incredible. So I don't know if you're seeing this or that video next, but if you have not watched that video, you have to. And I just cheated and threw on a blazer for my thumbnail to be different, but it's the same outfit and the same eye look. Incredible. All right, and those palettes will definitely be in these rankings at another time. And then we have the Bookish Beauty Copacetic and Panda Replay collab. This is such a good palette that I never see anyone talk about. I never see anyone use, and I love it so much. Again, we have these cool tones and these blues. I love this blue tone and this blue tone here, but I also really love this purple. It's so good. And then you have this gorgeous, like, it's really a kind of like a duo, like green blue here. Such a good palette, and Copacetic is awesome. Their singles are great. The next cool tone palette, again, this could have gone in so many categories. And I'm also thinking about doing a series where I do each of these categories, but I just show you like 10 or 15 because I had so many that could fit. It was very, very hard to narrow down. But we have Ghost Town USA by Nomad. This is their spooky season palette this year. And I love this color story. Now, I did a video on this, and if you saw it, you may remember. If you haven't seen it and you want to watch it, go for it. But I really pointed out that all of these mattes lean very cool toned gray. I mean, these look like they're brown hair, but they definitely pull gray. These look like they were going to be green. They pull like a green gray. So, and I love grays. So for me, I was really, really happy. And then you have all these cool tone metallics in here with their new formula. Such a beautiful palette. And this could also go into like other categories, I feel like, as well. It's probably going to show up in my spooky season palettes too, but for now, let's keep it there. All right, then we have this is my fourth that I was like, wait, I forgot. I'm only supposed to have 3, but I've got 4 here, so I'm gonna show it to you anyway. This is Blend Bunny Cosmetics, the Dollhouse palette. I think this is important to include and show because the others are more kind of gray leaning, blue leaning, but this has like your cool tone mauves in here, and it goes really light to deep, and it's just, the formula is so good in this. I think this is, even though it's a really large palette, I think this is a great palette for anyone who doesn't have a lot of shadows and you're just needing like an everyday palette. I think this would be perfect if you love cool tones. All right, the next category is warm tones. So we have my favorite palette from Colored Raine, and I have a lot from Colored Raine. Look how cool this is. It's flying. This is the Queen Bee palette. And oh my goodness, you guys, this is so, so good. These mattes are really excellent in here. And then you have a special shade Duo Multi-Chrome in here that is also so good. This is a beautiful shimmer, and it's a 6-pan, but it is a mighty 6-pan, and I love it. Then we have another one from Colored Raine. This is the Rebellious Nudes palette. And on my other video, I did, you know, favorite neutral palettes, and I was like, oh, I forgot this one. But really, it's like I said, I could do like 10 or 15 in each category. So I really, really love this palette. And you can tell that it really goes well with the Queen Bee palette. I mean, you put those together and I'm just perfect. Like, that's all you need for warm tone neutrals anyway. But the mattes are super soft and so pigmented. They blend really, really easily, and the shimmers are gorgeous in here as well. And then we also have the Citrus Punch palette. Now, this could have very easily, I kept moving it from one category to this category because I was trying to like get as much in as I could. So this could definitely go into the tropical category that I have coming, but because I had other palettes I wanted to show in there too, but I really love this palette. I was like, you know what? This is a warm tone. This is warm. Like, this is a warm tone palette. It's also a very bright, colorful palette, but I see warm tones, and I think it is so, so fun. I love the shimmers in here. I love the monochromatic rose. And honestly, I do kind of think that this could work for fall as well, now that I'm looking at it, if you go some of the more deeper tones in here. All right, next we have, oh, okay, this is my kind of weird category. This is either neutrals with some color or cool and warm together. So we have the Bless palette by Sydney Grace and Glitzy Fritzy. It is a collab palette. And I love this palette. And I was like, I really want to include this because, again, top threes, heck yeah, this is one of my favorite palettes. But I'm like, where does it go? Like, where would it fit into these categories? So, I mean, what I see is neutrals with color. That's what this palette is. So, the mattes, if you haven't tried Sydney Grace, just go for it. What are you waiting for? It's one of my favorite formulas, so good. But I think this palette's so smart. Like, the more I really look at it, I'm like, okay, like if you're someone who you don't want to go super colorful rainbow or neons, but you want to have a little bit of fun with shimmers and color, then you need neutrals and then your pops of color right here. So it was kind of genius, and I love the formula so much. Then we have within this category, this is an example of the cool and warm together, is the Nomad Cosmetics Hudson Valley palette. This is such a beautiful fall palette. And I mean, here you see real warm, but then you have your cool tones here. And I love mixing warm and cool together. I think some people think you can't do that. Do it. It has a beautiful effect to it. This is one of my favorite palettes of Nomads. And then the other one that is also, I think this kind of fits in both like warm, cool in one palette and also neutrals with some color. There's not a lot of color in here, but this is like a pinky, you have a purpley mauve, a green, you know, oranges can kind of lean like almost neutral, but then they could also count as color. This is such a good palette. It's still one of my favorites. I still think, I didn't really care for the new one that came out this year of the Man Eater, their fall palette. I mean, the outside packaging was gorgeous. It's like this purpley burgundy, and it's so sleek, but I didn't love that color story. This one I still think is so good. Okay, the next category we have are neons. So this is such a fun palette, and I keep meaning to do a full face of Moira. It's on the list. I have so many things that I want to do for YouTube. It's just only so much time in the day, or so many days. But I had this in a haul with the other one that was in this collection. This is the Fun is in the Air palette. And you guys, this is such a good affordable palette. I think the bundle was only $20 something for both of them, something like that. They are brighter than they even appear on camera. It is so hard to capture how bright. It's truly the most neon that I have, especially like this one, this shade right here. I love that they include this like gray in here too. Like, it's very surprising how good like a gray looks with a neon. And I mean, you do have cool tones in here that kind of, you know, if you're like, I don't want to have only neons, and then you can pop in these here. Quality is really great, really affordable, adorable packaging. The other one is the Give Me Glow Nightlife palette. I love this palette. It does kind of lean also pastel a little bit, because this pink is really, really soft, and this peach here, but like I just look at it and I see neons, and this yellow is really, really bright. So is the orange. These colors all play beautifully together. I also love that you can use these as blushes as well. Such a good palette. I'm so happy with this one. How could I not include Surge from Blend Bunny? And you guys, I just saw that they're not going to be able to make this palette anymore. Something to do with the manufacturer and neons being expensive. Did I read that right? I'm not sure. Maybe I made that up, but this palette's awesome. It's not only neons, obviously, because you do have these deeper, like this could really go grunge, it can go neon, it can go pastel, but like if I need neons, like I do always kind of remember this palette to pull out. Excellent palette. It makes me so sad that it's not going to be sold anymore, but if you have it and you need to think of a palette to use for neons, pull it out. Okay, next category is tropical. This is one of my favorite palettes, and this could have definitely gone in the neutral and colorful in one palette. It's the Tresluce I Am palette. This is one of my favorite palettes the past couple of years. You guys, it is so good and so underrated. This lime green in here is excellent, and this is one of my favorite yellows in my collection. It's a matte. This coral's gorgeous, but then you also have these neutrals, so you can really ground it. You can go all colorful if you want. It is such a good palette. It's so affordable. It always goes on sale for like 20 something bucks. Highly, highly recommend this as a tropical or a colorful meets neutrals. All right, next for the tropical palettes, we have the Paradise Islands palette by Nomad Cosmetics. Now, I have seen some people call this a pastel palette, and like I guess like there are pastels in here, but it's too deep also to be counted as pastel in my opinion. I mean, I do think you could almost count some like mermaid in here as well, but I just think it is a gorgeous tropical palette. I love it so much. I actually think you could bring this in for fall a little bit if you wanted to just tap into these. If you do have this in your collection and you think it's only spring and summer, you could also do the like real kind of icy tones for like wintry, like that wintry blue pink. So such a good palette, love that one. And then my other one for the tropical is also Nomad, and it is the Monteverde palette. And this is more like punchy, saturated tropical as opposed to those like lighter shades. This one is so good. I love the greens in here, but then you also have like your pops of pink and purple and the yellow. It's just, this is like says tropical vibrancy to me. All right, the next one that we have in line is date night palettes. Okay, I could include so many in this category, but I was like, all right, what do I really like to wear date night? Number one is I love a smoky eye. So you will see that in a second. And then I also like your just really, really pretty soft, you know, where I can maybe go with a bold lip, but like a softer eye. So the Rose Quartz palette by Huda Beauty, I think is a beautiful date night palette because it is soft, it's elegant, but then it has special shades in here, and I just think it's also very like angelic sometimes. And then I also think that mauves are really pretty for date night looks, so had to include that one. The other one that I've been loving, and this is just one of my favorite palettes period, is the Into the Night palette by Glaminatrix Cosmetics. And I was like, where do I put this? Like, it's got to be in here as my top 3. I didn't have it in the last video because it didn't fit into the categories. And then I was like, neons, but I'm like, it's really not a neon palette. Like, only half of it is. And it kind of goes grunge as well, but I was like, you know what? I do love wearing this for date nights because I love a silver and a smoky eye. So I can dip into this navy, this deep green here, and do this silver for smoky eye. But then if I want to do like something really fun and vibrant, I can do the neons in here too. I love this palette so much. And I do see like year round with this as well. So definitely one of my faves, and it could go in so many different categories, but I decided to put it there. Now, this was so hard not to put in the cool tone palettes, but I was trying to only have 3 in each category. I've always said this is my favorite cool tone palette, is the Lunar Beauty Eternal Eclipse. But why did I put it in date night? It's because this is my go-to date night palette. It is my favorite cool tone palette, but it's also my go-to date night palette. I love it because, like I said, I love a smoky eye, but you also have neutrals in here too. So, you know, my husband loves a smoky eye on me. And if I'm in a hurry and I'm like, I want to do something for date night, but I don't know what, I grab this palette like every time. I love it. I love this deep silver in here. I love this bright silver. I love the blue. I love the gray. I love doing the blue on the lower lash line, the deep blue. But then I also really love these like, they're kind of like deep berry mauves in here. Such a good palette. Love it so much. Okay, now we have jewel tones. So the Nahindran palette from Adept Cosmetics. I love this palette. Was this my first? No, this was not my first. Amunet was my first. But this one is, I mean, it's predominantly like your special shades in here. You only have 2 mattes. And again, they're just your like neutrals, so that the star of the show are these gorgeous like multi-chromes in here, metallics. And of course they're shifty, but like when I open it up, it just looks like a gorgeous jewel tone. Like I found something under the sea. You know, it should be a hidden treasure or something. It's stunning. I love the formula. So good. Then, of course, I had to include the Nomad Cosmetics Royal Europe palette. Definitely see jewel tones in here, but there's also, you know, some of your kind of grungy tones in here as well. And you know, like these yellow, mustard yellows aren't really jewel tones, but the majority of it is for me. And I think it's really versatile in that way, where it's not just only jewel tones, because you can anchor it a bit with like these shades. It's definitely a mid-tone to like deep saturation palette. There's not much lightness in here, so you have to really want that saturated jewel look, but definitely a fave. And it was their first time dabbling in the multi-chromes, and they did an outstanding job. How could I include jewel tones and not put Genuine Gems by Simply Posh Cosmetics? Again, they were really smart to also anchor it with like the same sort of mustardy yellows, kind of neutral with this one here, but I love how they do their monochromatic rose. Once again, you're gonna see a few of their palettes in the top 3 because I just feel like it's a very, very good formula, and they make it really easy to figure out what to do. If you wanna just do monochromatic looks, just go row by row, or you can mix it all around. Such a good brand. All right, now we're on to grunge, and really the grunge and then the like moody dark glam could kind of interchange somewhat, but because I wanted to show several, I was like, I'm just gonna split it into 2 categories, so they could kind of interchange. But we have the Gemini palette from Nomad Cosmetics. I just see like neutral grunge here. I love this palette for the mattes. The mattes are excellent. The shimmers are fine. They're not like amazing, but it's really the mattes for me in this palette, and I love the greens that are very like grungy greens, and then to like the mustardy colors in here, and then you got a matte black so you can really smoke it out. Love this palette. The other one that I'm considering a grunge palette is going to be the Haunted palette from Gourmande Girls. Now you'll definitely see this pop back up in my spooky season palettes for sure, but I do, when I open this up and I look at it, I see Halloween meets grunge, because you've got these shades here that I think like the greens, the kind of, I call them pukey greens, the pukey greens that grunge it up. And I also think if you throw in like a burgundy and a black, like that's grunge to me. But then you've also got the brighter pops with the shimmers and the special shades in here. So this could go dark glam, it could go grunge, but I put it in the grunge category. And then I also was having a hard time of where to put this one. It is the Heaven on Earth palette by Sydney Grace. Now, I've only used this palette twice, but I know Sydney Grace's formula like the back of my hand. It's so consistent. It's never something different. It's always good. And I do really enjoy this color story, and I do see grunge. I mean, I see other categories with this as well, that might go in part 3 video of doing these. But it's these greens, and then like going into these deeper, like the black here, and then this is like a really deep blue, gray, black almost shimmer here. And I just, yeah, I think you could definitely grunge it up with this palette. Now the next is the Moody / Dark Glam. So we have the Nightshade palette. And this again, I was like, where do I put this? Like, it could kind of go grunge too, but I think it's less grunge and more of that like dark glam, like I said, because of these 2 multi-chromes here. They're so deep and dark, but like shifty. And then you've got the deep mattes here that it really can go kind of goth glam, dark glam. I love this palette. It's so good. So I had to include it somewhere. I think it works there. This, honestly, out of all of them, this encompasses like dark glam moody the most. This is the Beauty Bay Fantasy palette, dark fantasy palette. This is the ultimate moody dark glam palette. I mean, it looks like the Matrix, right? Like that, when I open this, I'm like, ooh, the Matrix. But you guys, like, I love this palette. I actually need to use it a lot more. I've grown to really love Beauty Bay's formula and understand it, whereas I didn't quite understand it the first couple of times I tried the Opulence palette. This one, if you want like a go-to, where I want like a darker look and maybe a few punchy, like with the green in here, or even, I mean, really just a green, but you do have a white where you can lighten this up. I think that's key. So like if these are all too dark for you, you just blend in the white and it'll like lighten up that shade. So good. And then the Wicked Widow Beauty. Now I was like, oh crap, this belongs in my cool tones. But I'm like, no, I could actually definitely put this in the dark glam. This was the first palette I think that I tried in 2023, like at the very beginning of the year. And I was like, this will be a favorite at the end. And it still is. I love this palette so, so, so much. You have beautiful shimmers, shifty multi-chromes in here, beautiful mattes. And I just, ooh, like I love it. And then if you are a cool tone girl, you might also be drawn to this because of that. But I do think you can go kind of grungy, dark glam with this as well. All right, now the last category is the like random, where I didn't know where to put it, but I just wanted to include them. And I probably should have just put this in part 3, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you these 3. All right, so we have the Fairy Tale Fairies from Simply Posh Cosmetics. Now, some may have put this in pastel, but actually a lot of people describe this as a grungy pastel palette. And it really is, because like you've got grungy tones like over here, but then you have pastels over here. And so it's kind of hard to categorize. I guess you could have a whole category that's grungy pastel or something like that. But I wanted to show it because I love this palette and I love how you can go light or deep or both. So I put it in this like kind of ambiguous category. Then we have the Primal palette from Gourmande Cosmetics, and I was kicking myself because I'm like, why didn't I have this as a rainbow palette? Why didn't I include this as a rainbow palette in my last video? This is definitely a rainbow palette, but then I was like, well, it is, but then you have like these super deep shades in here and like, of course, the black and the white. So, I mean, it's rainbow, but then it's also like, I see like a little bit of grunge in here. I mean, look at this. Like if you didn't have this, you don't see rainbow as much, or even like this right here is like a cool tone. It actually kind of looks like the Beauty Bay Dark Fantasy palette when you just look at that. So that's why I included it in this like ambiguous category. And then this is a really random palette. This is like, whoa, pulling out old school. This will now be, I think, 3 years old this holidays. It's the Naughty palette from BH Cosmetics. And I love this palette. It's so good. It was one of my favorite BH palettes. I also loved the Naughty List palette. I thought about putting that in here and I'm like, I'll probably do a Christmas video palettes and I'll show you guys it then. This is a mega palette. It's huge. And this one could also categorize as like cool and warm and neutrals with pops of color. It's very, very like random layout and everything, but it performs so, so well. And it's just kind of one of those, like, you need this and maybe like a normal person that's not me and a beauty obsessed person could use this and maybe that Dollhouse palette from Gourmande, and like they're good to go. That's like all they would need. So I just included that because I really love this palette and I felt like I wanted to pull it out and show you guys. All right, so that's actually 31 palettes since I cheated of the top 3 in 10 categories. And if you guys want to do this, please do it too. I would love to see your list. And I guess watch out for part 3 because I've got a few more categories to add. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And as always, have fun shopping, budget shopping. Bye.